Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display for another Customizer Showcase. Today we're going to be looking at my custom of QIMIR, or the stranger from the Star Wars Acolyte show. No, don't hurt me! I'm being a good boy! Okay, listen, straight away, first thing, if you came to this video just to yell and scream about the show and how great or awful it was, before you even hear my own opinion on how the show went, then there's the door. Go on out. We don't need you here. We're here to talk about toys, that's it, and customizing, and that's it. So, yeah, go on ahead. Alright, bye. Have fun. Alright, now that the rational people are still here, so how did I feel about the show? It was bad, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And not just that the show was of poor quality, but they also had all the behind-the-scenes vitriol and stuff like that. I'm not even going to get into it, but that was an absolute mess. That being said, I'm not one to totally dislike something completely. Like, for example, I'm a Last Jedi hater. I will hate that movie until I am dead in the ground, but I do enjoy certain moments like the Praetorian Guards. That's kind of it. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a Star Wars property and you don't like it overall, there's still little elements in there that you can enjoy on your own time, and that's allowed. You're allowed to do that as a human being. That's what freedom means. So that being said, even though I did not like the Acolyte show, my one takeaway was QIMIR. I thought he was a very interesting, though underutilized character. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to twist it, we will not be getting an Acolyte Season 2, so I wanted to make a custom of him. The other reason why I wanted to make a custom of this figure is because we're probably never going to see an official one. We have seen a whole bunch of releases of Star Wars The Acolyte figures being all the Jedi and stuff, and the twins, and then we even got a Stranger helmet, which I canceled my pre-order on because, let's face it, that's going to go on sale if I ever going to want that again. But then the Disney store mysteriously removed all the Acolyte merch from their shop. And that's an indication to me that, first of all, Acolyte merch is not going to be profitable, and second of all, they're not going to be making more stuff. So, all that being said, we're probably never going to see an official QIMIR figure. So, I wanted to make one, and here he is. Just wrapped him up today. Anyways, enough about the trivia and the behind-the-scenes jargon. Let's talk about how I made this figure. Go from head to toe, I suppose, here. I'm going to put the hands and the sabers down to start us off. So, I'm going to go through each little element of this figure for the 7 people out there who are interested in making a QIMIR of their very own. But anyhow, first thing we have here, I just got this in the mail today, and I got straight to work. We have QIMIR's helmet, which is made of cortosis, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, it's a slightly lightsaber-resistant material from Legends that was then integrated into canon, which is a thing that I really enjoy about this character. I think it's really neat that he has elements of cortosis on his person, but only limited quantities, implying that it's useful, but it's also still very rare and very susceptible to damage. So anyways, this is a 3D printed piece. Obviously, not mine. I don't own a 3D printer, nor do I even know how to use one. So I did get this online. I will put a link in the description. Shipping was really, really slow. I don't know why. It took like 2 weeks when I feel like it should have been a quarter of that. But that being said, it's a magnificent sculpt. Didn't really have to do any sanding or anything. I mean, it's supposed to look like a beat-up helmet anyways. So I based it out in like a bronze color that I kind of made from mixing up silver and a light brown. And that's how I was able to get the cortosis color. I did a little bit of a black wash, and I had to do all the silver and copper-looking accent work for all the little scuffs and scars that it has. It was a long process, but it was really fun to do. I really enjoyed jacking this helmet up to make it look good, and as film accurate as I could, or show accurate, rather. The nice thing is it's a helmet that's inherently supposed to look damaged. It's supposed to look dirty and worn. They got a little sloppy with the silver on the back, so just ignore that. But the nice thing is you can get away with slopping up a little bit, making mistakes. That being said, I like the things I did with intent, and I like the little mistakes I made. Like over here, there was a little bit of paint rub, but you wouldn't notice that because, again, it's supposed to be a beat-up helmet. And one thing that I did do is I used some paint markers to color in the entire mouth with black, and then I dry brushed over that with silver. So I did a whole lot of little tweaks and stuff in here. I don't remember every single step that I did with it. I kind of just did it, and I'm happy with the results. But if you need more specifics, go in the comments, and then I can do my best to help you out. So anyhow, let's move on our way on down. We have this little scarf here, which initially I was just going to do soft goods, and that was it. But I felt like he was really missing something from the profile. That was almost these folds that he has along the top of his robes, or poncho, or whatever you want to call it. This is actually from Kylo Ren. I've owned several Kylo Rens in the past because I had the original Black Series release, and then I also had that snowy Starkiller base release, and I got some fodder from both of those figures. I noticed that there are two versions that Black Series has released of this particular Kylo Ren cape. One had more of this texture to it to make it look more clothy, but then they also released a smoother looking variant, which I originally had on my young Palpatine custom. So what I did is I actually removed that, planted it onto this figure, and I cut off the back portion of the cape. So instead he just got that scarf going around, or not really a scarf, but more just to represent the folds of the overall poncho, know what I mean? So anyhow, that brings us to the most difficult part of this figure, which was the actual poncho itself. So I had to rewatch segments of the Acolyte, the only segments I cared about being whenever QIMIR is present, and the combat I really loved. I really loved lightsaber choreography. I love seeing Jedi drop like flies. It's just one of the things I enjoy from Star Wars, and I really had to study the robes as closely as I could. Like, there weren't a whole ton of shots of the costume online. There were a few out there, so I had to do some digging. But that being said, it looked like it was made of several layers of cloth, hence the Shrek meme that just showed up. But yeah, I kind of did 3 in the front, and then I did 3 on the back over there. So just had to slap one piece on top of another, and as I mentioned before, I get all my soft goods from old clothing. Then I just wash it, cut it up, measure it out nicely, and then lie it on top of each other. So now we have this poncho effect. Really unique robes, if you can even call them robes. Again, it's more of a poncho than anything else. Now we can talk about the base figure, and this was really interesting because a variety of parts went into the figure aside from the helmet and poncho. So the base figure I did was actually the Legends Luke that is effectively a repaint of the Dagobah version of him, but instead he's all done up in black. I will remove the soft goods here, and you can see what I mean. So we have the sort of this tank top, then you got the pants down here. There's other kibble going on around here too, but we'll talk about it later when we remove the poncho. But that was a figure that came with the little force-resistant creature, the Ysalamari or whatever, that Thrawn wears around his neck. So I used that figure as the base, popped off the head, and now we got the hands down here that can grip the saber, which we'll talk about again in a minute. But I also wanted to mention that I did have the release of Luke that also came with Yoda. That meant I also have Force-using hands over here, which Luke was using on Dagobah, of course. But now we can use them here on QIMIR, because the base Legends Luke figure is compatible with these hands. So now you can do Force Push, Force Choke, Force Mind Wipe, as he also did in the film, which was a little weird. There were a number of weird things in the show. It's nice that we also have interchangeable hand options, so we'll look at those as well. Down to the arms, I dirtied them up because when you do actually look in the films, his arms are quite dirty. I don't know why I keep saying film. It was a damn show, but with a budget of like 10 films in it, which was part of the problem. But anyways, going down to the sabers, we have here in his 2 gripping hands. You can go any which way you want. Really, any Darksider sabers will do. I actually got the Darkside Ray saber loose. You know, the one that kind of folds out, the folds back in. I was really displeased with it, by the way, as it came. It was very loosey-goosey, but that's okay. I planned on cutting it up, and now we got one shorter saber over here, and then we have the removable piece over here. And what I actually did here is I cut it up a little bit towards the center, if it'll focus. There we go. And I actually reversed the more dome-looking piece. So that end was originally facing in this way, but then I flipped the piece and I glued it in that way. So now it looks like a removable component from this saber, as we saw in the film right before he killed Jackie, Daphne Keen's character. So yeah, that's how I went about the sabers. Couldn't find an exact replica of QIMIR sabers on eBay, so that's what I went with. As for the blades, they are the standard red blades that came with the original figure, so no changes there. And they are removable from the sabers themselves, but I don't feel the need to do that, so I won't do it. But anyways, another critical difference is you do have cortosis over here on this vambracer. It's a little more detailed in the film than it is here. It's supposed to have some little buckles and stuff. I ignore that completely. What I did here is I actually used spare parts I had from a Bandai Stormtrooper model kit. I glued the two halves together, sanded them down, trimmed up the ends, the two sockets on either end, to make it look a little more scrappy like it was in the show. And I couldn't obviously just slide it right down on the arm. So what I did is I had to cut out the guts, like the pegs and stuff that would hold everything together and sand them out and everything. And then I actually had to trim down the arm itself. So I had to shave it down. I literally just got wire cutters and cut off big chunks of arm until eventually this fan bracer was able to slide on. Until recently it was removable, but I decided to just glue it right on so I wouldn't have to worry about it sliding around or anything, but it's a perfect fit. I'm surprised that actually panned out as well as it did. Again, I didn't see a model of this on eBay that was 3D printed or anything, so I had to get creative and do my own. I could have also used leather, but I wanted something that looked really solid, henceforth the plastic Bandai part, so really digging that a lot. And then down to the feet. These are, of course, by default molded in black, but I also dirtied them up with some dirt and soot to make it look like he was walking around that unknown planet or whatever it was called. So anyhow, we can also remove certain parts of this figure. So we will start off with the poncho over here. So we will pop away the helmet, and you could see how this was socketed on. If there's anyone out there who isn't sure how custom head sculpts are put onto the standard official Black Series figures, you're usually going to need some poster tack. So here we got some in there. Usually it's blue, in my case it's gray, but it's really nice. It's actually better than you'd think. It can conform to any socket, and then from there you can just pop it onto any ball joint that you want. So see, you can just pour that right back on, like so, articulate it in any which way that I want. You could be looking up, looking down, doing a little bit of a creepy, like serial killer tilt if you wanted to. So yeah, it works just as good as any ball joint, although sometimes the tack does pop out, which is fine. You just pour that right back in. Little issue, and we'll just reconform when we pop it back on. But anyways, as for removing the poncho, really easy, just slide it right up. You got the poncho here, you could be throwing it to the side or whatever you want, but I decided to keep it removable and not glue it down because I realized if I glued down the plastic portion, it would actually limit his arm articulation, so I want to avoid that. But when you remove it, you have an option for a poncho-less QIMIR. I mean, that's not really lore accurate. It's not really what we saw in the show. He usually had less clothing on in the show when the helmet was off. But all that being said, you can put the helmet back on, and then you have this alternate look for him, which I also dig. Then you got the bare arms, you still got the sabers, vambracer, and down here I do have a few extra parts over here. I also have this belt and this loincloth piece, which came from the comic Darth Maul figure, where he had no shirt, and then he had some of the little cloth bits hanging down. I cut away the plastic bits that were off to the side because they were actually poking out from the poncho, and I didn't want that. So I just had this one piece hanging down, and that's it. Just a creative liberty. I don't think it's accurate to the show at all, but I just thought it looked pretty cool. And then I also did some extra cloth work around here to simulate sort of a skirt, a kama, whatever it is you'd want to call it. And once again, I did a little bit of the dirt accenting on the loincloth, and then on the skirt, and then a little bit on that undershirt as well. So nice to have little options there. But the last thing we can do is, of course, you can pop off the hands, either one or both, and then you can replace them with the Force-using hand. So this is, again, the Dagobah Luke 2-pack with Yoda hand that you can use to have him standing upside down if you wanted to. But here, it's a nice Force-pushing hand if you want him pushing away a whole bunch of Jedi at once. How realistic it is, I don't know. I don't know how experienced this dude was, but apparently powerful enough to push a whole bunch of Jedi Masters out of the way like nothing, but whatever. Then you can also remove this hand, and you got another alternative, more relaxed Force-using hand, which looks pretty good, which is multi-purpose. It could be for a number of different Force powers, like it could be lifting something up, pushing something down, doing a Force choke, whatever it is you want. Or you can just have it around his belt. Yeah, it's just nice to have options. You can just casually pushing people away or something like that. So I don't know. It's cool to have options. So the hands are totally optional. You don't have to have them. You can just have the grips and you'll be a happy camper if you want to make a figure like this. But all being said, that is pretty much the recipe for this QIMIR figure that I have. Very simple to make. I mean, it was less so the challenge of making the figure. It was more so just waiting on the parts and planning it out. That was a really tricky thing. Like, I had to go on YouTube on my phone, and that's fine, we can leave that there, and screenshot clips from the Acolyte show, and then kind of figure out how I would be able to craft the poncho and everything. The poncho, again, was the most difficult part. And then when I finally got the helmet in the mail today, I simply looked up the Black Series helmet and just did the rest of my paintwork based off of that. So let's get him in a cool pose. I don't know, he can be stabbing this way because he does do a reverse grip with the shorter saber. We can get the other one up high, again, because we did not glue down the poncho. And yeah, it looks pretty badass. I really do love this design. I mean, as much as I have issues with the show, and more so the behind-the-scenes stuff, I dig the design of this character a lot. So I'm happy to have him here in plastic form. I think he looks really good. And we also have one other comparison to do, which is kind of an awkward one because people feel very differently about the fact that this character is related to QIMIR at all. Even I'm not sure how I feel about it at this point. But I also have, if I can get the saber into his hands, give me a minute here. It's been a while since I've actually held this figure in my hands. I have my custom Darth Plagueis, which is almost there. It's cooking. Be patient. Thank you. Thank you guys very much for hanging out. But I can put, I guess, his quote-unquote master next to him. I don't know what the relationship is. If they have a relationship at all, he kind of just poked out for a little while. But yeah, the height difference is immense because, of course, we have Luke Skywalker as the base over here, and he is shorter than the average 6-inch scale figure. And then you got Plagueis, who's a Mun, or a Moon, or however you pronounce it, and they're an alien who are naturally taller than human beings. And then lastly, of course, we got the Star Wars The Black Series, Mecha, who is, as per usual, dwarfed by just about every figure that we've looked at on this channel. So, anyhow, that's it for QIMIR. Not much else to say. I just wanted to show off this custom. If anyone wants to build one on your own, then that is a recipe to do so. If you have any questions, then the comments are open and available and hopefully healthy. If there's any unwarranted, nasty comments or death threats towards my mother, then obviously I'll just delete them, so don't waste your time. But yeah, I just wanted to make a cool character, and this guy fit the bill for me. I have no plans on getting the other Acolyte characters because he's literally the only one that I cared about. I definitely didn't care about the twins. I was partial to Jackie. I thought she was pretty neat, and Soul as well, but one died really quick, and one had a pretty dumb death, in my opinion, and that's as far as I'll speak to on the quality of the show. Like, if you enjoyed the show, great. If you hated the show, don't be a dick about it, you know, be friendly. Star Wars is supposed to bring people together, not pull them apart, but looks like that's what's happening right now. I mean, just check out Star Wars Theory's channel and see the drama going on there. It's totally wild, but anyways, that's all I got to say for today. Hope you enjoyed this custom. Hope you learned a few little moves and tips in there when it comes to customizing, even if you don't plan on making QIMIR, which I totally understand if you don't, but if you plan on applying certain tricks or whatever that I did here onto other customs you want to make, let me know in the comments so I can learn about what you've made. I'm very curious. So all that being said, that's a wrap. So if you enjoyed this little customizer showcase, please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals, and subscribe.
This is the editor speaking, humbly reminding you to support the pod Patreon in the description to guarantee new content every single week.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.